Welcome to the Big O Show on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe.
Still the same damn kid from Oklahoma, same old dreams hanging off my shoulders, wishing and waiting on a shooting star for all to see.
And now your host, straight out of Oklahoma, former Buffalo Bill, Jerry Ostrowski.
I'm still the same damn kid from Oklahoma.
What is going on, everybody? It is Wednesday night, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. It is now time for the Big O Show right here on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. We are powered by Believe. We got a lot of cool things coming up we'll be able to tell you about soon, as far as added shows, as sponsorships, all that stuff goes. But I am very, very happy you are joining me this evening. And as always, folks, if you want to get in the comments and get over there, if you got good questions, you got a question to ask me, go ahead and put it in the comments. We'll talk about it on the show, and we'll go ahead and discuss these things. But today on the Big O Show, and once again, help us out. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, rate the show, review it, tell your friends all about it. But we are going to talk about injuries today. Okay, we're going to talk about the big topic that is going on at St. John Fisher. And I've got theories about this. Some of you may not want to hear them. Some of you may not believe what I have to say. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I have all this scientific proof or that I've done all these different experiments and breakdowns and analytics about how I feel about the injury situation. But I will say this, and we'll talk about specifics and then in generalities. But I will say this, we are not unique. What is going on at One Bills Drive is not unique. I say One Bills Drive, training camp, St. John Fisher, you understand what I'm saying. But real quick, and I will preface this news before I talk about it, is saying this. We have not seen an official release from the Buffalo Bills yet as far as Maxwell HAIRSTON's injury. But Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network says that a person spoke to the AP on condition of anonymity, meaning didn't want his name out there. Wish he would have just said that so I didn't have to try to pronounce that name. But anyway, a person spoke without using his name, said because the team is off, hasn't provided any update on HAIRSTON's injury, like I said, since he was hurt in practice a day earlier. But the NFL.com is reporting that Maxwell HAIRSTON has a lateral collateral ligament sprain in his right knee. And while the timetables aren't exact, the report out there from the NFL Network and Rappaport has alluded to the fact they're saying 3 weeks at least for HAIRSTON before he is back on the field with the Buffalo Bills. Now, when I hear this exact press release from the Bills, then I will go ahead and say I believe it. Obviously, Rappaport is a very, very good reporter, has great sources. And, you know, I do take what he says seriously. But again, when we're talking about these injuries, we're talking about HIPAA, we're talking about all the stuff that goes with it, it's hard for us to really go out on a limb and just say, hey, this is it, until I hear a definitive comment from the Buffalo Bills. But we're going to talk about injuries. And obviously the big scare with HAIRSTON was the ACL. Lots of speculation off of some video that was put out there on social media, doing what they call a drawer test. That is where they bend the knee and they pull on the tibia to see if the tibia has what they call an endpoint. If it has an endpoint, a definite endpoint, it shows that ACL is solid If it doesn't have an endpoint and there's a big, what they call positive drawer test, that is a preliminary indication. And I believe that test is called a Lockman's test. That's a preliminary indication that maybe that ACL has been compromised. So there was lots of speculation off of that video. But, as we've heard through the NFL Network and Ian Rappaport, it is being leaked out and reported that it's an LCL injury, which, if you don't understand the anatomy of the knee, the LCL is what would be the lateral collateral ligament. It's the ligament on the outside of the knee that creates stability between that femur and tibia. One thing about that injury, in linemen, big dudes, brace it up. Usually they come back quicker than a skill guy that's got to use a bunch of athletic ability and those types of things. Most people saw the report last night from HAIRSTON, who alluded to the positive testing news Tuesday night on his Instagram story, attaching a photo captioned "Beyond Blessed, Thank You God," with praying hands emoji to suggest a good report. But again, I will say this. There has been no official release from the Buffalo Bills. Now, they were off today. Bills not practicing today. I'm sure they had meetings and training in the weight room and all those types of things. I'm sure August 5th we'll see a big piece of this on Hard Knocks. But until I see that official report from the Bills, I'm still waiting. Obviously, HAIRSTON, all reports he was hurt. He tripped himself during individual drills and landed funny on that leg, a non-contact injury. Now, if it is an LCL, again, best case scenario. There's a lot of other injuries that can go with this. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not, I'm not one of these guys on the internet that talks about it, that there are doctors. But I have had a lot of injury experience, not only playing, but in my career post-playing, which was in medical device sales. And there's a lot of different things that can happen. Meniscus tears. You can get condylar fractures, all those types of things. Stuff that you worry about. You can still get serious injuries even if the ACL is intact. So hopefully all this is an LCL. But I will say this. If you've been following training camp, like a lot of us have, it was pretty evident that while I think HAIRSTON is an incredibly talented player and will be a very good cornerback in the NFL, it was pretty evident that the Bills were leaning heavily upon Trey White. And I think when you watch practice, you saw Trey, you saw his press conference, which I talked about the other day on Bill Squad, which is a show that I do with Joe Marino and Jeremy White. You can check that show out on the Locked On Network on Mondays and Thursdays from 12 to 1 Eastern time, 11 to noon Central. We'll shift that Thursday show once the season starts. But we talked about it then, talked about Trey White's press conference and just how awesome it was, how spirited it was, and how he was taking into his own hands and not wanting to go out one of those talented players that gets injured and then just kind of fades away. Trey's put a tremendous amount of work into his body. He's put a tremendous amount of work into his trade. He's now 2 years off of his second major injury, which was the Achilles injury. And honestly, and you've heard Brandon Beane talk about it, if there were not cap implications in Buffalo to the point of, I think right now, without making any moves, and you'd have to think that Deion Dawkins would be the easiest move to create much more cap space, we're about $100,000 under the cap. So we don't have much room to move around. But if you listen to Brandon Beane, they didn't want to get rid of Trey White in the first place, but they had to because of the cap situation, and now he's back and not only providing a tremendous amount of leadership on the field, but also, out on the field competing and doing a hell of a job at the cornerback spot. Joey Hatch says this, and I agree. This is the first offseason Trey has had in 3 seasons. We talk about the same thing with Matt Milano. Coming back from the tibial plateau fracture, then he goes ahead and pops the biceps. off seasons are really important, guys. They're really important, especially for the older player. The off season really gives them a chance to heal up and then work on some things that they've had nagging throughout the season, and get yourself healthy and where you need to be to perform. And I think you're seeing that out of both guys, Trey White and Matt Milano, just performing tremendously well out at St. John Fisher. But this whole HAIRSTON scare, and if the LCL report is true, and we find out that it is an LCL, which is best case scenario, with this scare and then the other list that when you look at the Buffalo Bills, injury list reported from Alex Brasky. Alex last night was on our On the Beach show. If you haven't checked that out yet, you need to go ahead and get on YouTube or go to the podcasting platforms. Check that show out. Tons and tons of information on that show. But if you look at this injury report from Brasky yesterday, you got Max HAIRSTON, knee. Linebacker Terrell Bernard, hamstring. Dorian Williams, calf. Dawson Knox, hamstring. Tyler Bass, pelvic area soreness. Could be one of many things. It could be a groin. It could be hip flexor. It could be what they call a sports hernia, which we hope that is not, because a sports hernia for a kicker is very, very detrimental to what they do. Spencer Brown, back. Alex Anderson, knee. Elijah Moore, leg soreness. Wide receiver Curtis Samuel, hamstring. Caden Prather, hamstring. Terrell Shavers, ankle. TJ Hamler, heat illness. Dwayne Carter, illness. Mike Edwards, heat illness. Okay? Here's the thing. And I want you all to understand this. We live in a world nowadays where somebody has to be at fault. We've got to find blame. We've got to point the finger at somebody. Why are these injuries happening? It's got to be the strength staff. We fired one strength coach. We hired another guy. We're in the same situation we were last year. I think Greg over on Cover One talked about it. I mean, I think we're like 2 injuries less or 2 injuries more than we were last year. And we're in the same boat with a different strength coach. And what I'm going to say is this. It should tell you something. It should tell you something. It's the world we live in professional athletics. While I think the term load management is soft, there's a reason why they have load management in the NBA. It's hard for the human body to play 82 games. I think it's ridiculous that a Major League Baseball player has to play 162 games. It's silly. Hockey players, the amount of games they play, it's ridiculous. And now we're talking about the most physical game in the world. We've already gone to 17 games, not counting preseason, not counting playoffs, and we eventually want to get to 20. Something's got to give, folks. I've been in the middle of it. And the thing that gives is the human body. It's not built, it's not made to do these things. And I'll give you some reasons why I believe this here in a moment. But I alluded to it earlier in the fact that we're not unique. If you look at across the National Football League right now, week 1, some heading into week 2 of training camp, most teams in the league are dealing with the same injury situations that the Buffalo Bills are. Here's just a small list of key injuries across the league with some pretty important players. Justin Jefferson, Vikings, hamstring strain, considered a medium risk with history of hamstring issues. Isaiah Likely, foot fracture, has already had it fixed. Martin Emerson Jr. from the Browns, Achilles tear, Achilles rupture, will have it repaired. Kalen Carson, Cowboys, expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks with a hyperextended knee. Jalen Ramsey, Dolphins, will undergo surgery on his left meniscus. Donovan Wilson, Cowboys, 4 to 6 weeks with a calf strain. Kadarius Toney of the Chiefs had surgery on a partially torn meniscus. Hopefully he'll get back week 1, potentially. Hollywood Brown carted off with an ankle injury. Second year in a row, a major injury for Hollywood Brown in Kansas City. Taron Jackson, neck injury, was taken off the field on a backboard and taken to the hospital. But he's got feeling and movement of all extremities. Tyler Guyton suffered a bone fracture in his knee, potentially out for 4 to 6 weeks. He was another guy, big offensive lineman for the Cowboys, that had what they thought was an ACL injury. And I talked about, even though it might not be an ACL injury, you've got situations where you can have other major injuries. And one of them is those two bones slam together and you get a compression fracture. Big man with a compression fracture, that could end up being a big deal. So you got the Cowboys dealing with multiple injuries. Dolphins secondary is impacted by injuries. 49ers are dealing with potential long-term absence of Brandon Ayuk. You got Joe Mixon of the Texans, extended period of time due to a foot injury. Panthers got players with injuries, including Hunter Renfrow and Mike Jackson and the likes. We're not unique, folks. This is what's going on in the NFL. And if you want to point the finger at somebody, point the finger at science. Okay? And here's what I fully believe. We are born and our bodies only have so many reps in them. We only have so many physical opportunities as a human to do anything, whether it be work your daily job, whatever you do. Now we take guys that are naturally walking the street, if they weren't playing in the NFL, at 215 pounds, 225 pounds, 240 pounds, and we take those guys, we put them in a weight room with unbelievable coaching, unbelievable science, strength coaches that have degrees upon degrees, amazing nutrition, amazing recovery modalities. Modalities are things you use to recover, instruments like cold plunge, saunas, stim, ultrasound. You've got all these things. And you take these athletes, you put them into a laboratory. And that's what a weight room is, folks. A weight room is a laboratory. It's a laboratory to make physical freaks. And we take guys that are going to walk the street at a much lower weight, and we put them under strain. We put them in heavy work environments where muscles are growing at exponential amounts. And if you look at this, and I'm going to make a joke right now, and it's a joke, but it's also true. Other than the heat illness stuff and maybe actual like soft, no, and I don't want to say soft tissue, but actual bony type injuries. When I say bony type injuries, a ligament injury is a bony type injury because a ligament attaches bone to bone. Okay? Even though it's not a fracture, you deal with injuries to the ligaments, you're dealing with injuries to the bone. Tendon injuries are injuries to the muscle. But when you take these guys and you put them under tremendous strain with great nutrition, great recovery, great all this stuff. Hell, some programs go ahead and monitor how much players sleep, how much they rest, all these things. And you take a guy that's naturally 215 and you grow him to a 235, 240-pound beast. Okay? Something's got to give. And the joke of this is, and you look at that list, other than the bony injuries or joint type stuff or heat, you don't see any fat guys on that list. Not a whole ton of fat dudes getting soft tissue injuries. And there's a reason for that. Because they're not tweaked out like these elite corners, like these elite linebackers, like these elite defensive linemen, like these elite wide receivers, these elite tight ends. You know, we talk about Dalton Kincaid. Now, he hasn't had the soft tissue stuff. He's had the knee injury stuff. Dalton Kincaid stops playing football. He's probably 220 pounds, 215 pounds. He's 246 right now. That's what he's listed. You don't see fat guys on these injury lists. I consider myself a fat guy. I never miss time because of a soft tissue injury. Soft tissue injuries are rampant amongst those positions that have the dudes that are tweaked out because you are growing huge muscle that honestly, and we've got big humans in the NFL, okay? Honestly, even as a big human, they're not meant to do what they do. So be really cautious before you start pointing the finger at a system or at a strength coach, a strength program, an organization, and understand this. We are taking the physical body to levels that it's never been before, and it's only going up. It's only escalating. And I just, you know, I get frustrated that Terrell Bernard's not at middle linebacker right now. I get frustrated at Dorian Williams. I got frustrated with Joey Bosa. But these are all those types of injuries, and these are all those types of guys. They're all tweaked out, twitchy, fast, heavy muscle fiber dudes. And when you're one of those guys, that's what happens. And, you know, you say, well, the Buffalo Bills training staff and the strength staff, they should be able to pull this back and do. I guarantee you they're doing all kinds of things to prevent this. And it's not just lifting weights. It's how you train on the field. Okay, there's a huge segment of training in the offseason of change of direction, doing tons of yards with a heavy change of direction emphasis. That's why you see them in the offseason. They're all wearing those. They all look like Brandy Chastain wearing sports bras, but they got GPS monitors in them. And they might be running X amount of hundreds of yards in a workout session that's monitored by that strength staff, but their change of direction is exponential. It's through the roof. Okay? You can go ahead and do a ton of plyometric exercises, which plyometrics are jumping on boxes, jumping off of boxes, learning how to land, all those different things. So don't think that the Bills strength staff isn't doing that. I guarantee you they're doing that. And I guarantee you they're doing everything they can to prevent this stuff. But when you take big-time athletes, put that kind of muscle mass on them, and stick them in a highly competitive environment, and here's the thing that nobody wants to put credence to either. These jobs, the thing that comes with these jobs that these guys have, because right now as professional athletes, all these positions, yes, it's a game, but it is a job. They come with a high amount of money. And if that strength staff wasn't doing it, they're going to find a trainer somewhere else to do it. Players are going to find a way to get every competitive advantage they can get to be able to be on that field, to be able to perform and make those paychecks and those direct deposits on Tuesday afternoon. So I just, today's show and everybody's covering training camp. We can talk about a lot of different things. There's stuff that I'm excited about. One of the things that I'm super excited about is the old guys, the way the old guys are performing right now, meaning like Matt Milano, Trey White, those types of guys stepping up. Bosa's had a good first week of training camp. He's out there getting things done. I think the defense, we can talk about the defense. The defense is coming along and flying to the football. And I think the biggest addition to that defense right now is Ryan Nielsen. I think Nielsen's doing a very, very good job with that defensive line in front seven seems that he's very involved in pressure packages up front. And if you've listened to people that have been at practice, and we'll be up there next week, the Overreaction crew will be able to get up to Rochester and check things out with our own eyes. But tons of 5-man pressures. And it was rumored that when Maxwell HAIRSTON got hurt, it was actually practicing or doing drill work as far as some corner blitz stuff. So they're bringing corner blitzes, they're bringing extra linebackers, they're doing all kinds of stuff. And I'm highly excited about that. But I get on a tangent. I get to burn my saddle on certain things. And one of those things is it's very, very easy. When you have a strength coach and the guys get hurt in the weight room, that's a different story. That's a different story. Our guys aren't getting hurt in the weight room. They're getting hurt in practice. And while we want to point the finger at the strength staff, man, this is something going across the league. And what you have to understand is this. It's just science. It's physics. The human body, I mean, we're not made to be built like some of these guys are built. And it's just that simple. So I appreciate you listening to my rant. Obviously, great news on HAIRSTON. He's out for 3 weeks is the rumored amount. There's been some people out there that have talked about maybe is it good to bring back Rasul Douglas. Douglas did not have a good 2024. Rasul Douglas, I think 32 years of age, had an opportunity to sign with Miami, did not sign with Miami. And I'm to the point where I think Rasul Douglas is probably basically at the end of his career. I think we got better options on our roster at corner. I believe in DORION Strong. I think that was a steal of a pick when they got him in the 6th round. He's going to be now moved up on the depth chart with HAIRSTON being out for a while. And then you've got Dane Jackson as well, who's a highly is a veteran that's played quite a bit, a guy that understands the game, understands the Bills system. So I think we've got much better options on the roster than to go out and try to rejuvenate and bring back Rasul Douglas. So Bill's back on the practice field tomorrow. Tomorrow night, obviously, is the Hall of Fame game, first football being played. So we'll have an opportunity to watch some NFL football tomorrow night. Buffalo Bills will play the following week at home against the Giants, and good chance I'll be at that game. But anyway, just want to talk a little bit about this injury situation, and I want everybody to kind of sit back and ease up a little bit and understand this is, we've got men that are being built into animals and machines and monsters that the body wasn't intended to look like that or be put through some of those forces. So be patient. I think the Buffalo Bills training staff is doing a very good job as far as getting these guys healthy. We've seen in Buffalo, it's much more important to get this team healthy, not only for the regular season, but the latter part of the regular season going into the playoffs. And I think that's much more important than forcing guys, especially some of our vets like Spencer Brown and the others that are not in there, and force them into training camp and potentially keep those injuries agitated to where they're not playing at the level we need them to play at during the regular season. So once again, this is the Big O Show. If you want to check out more of me, I'll be on tomorrow on the Bill Squad Show with Joe Marino and Jeremy White on the Locked On channel, 12 Eastern, 11 Central. And we're going to get into more of this injury report stuff as well as some other things, and probably touch pretty heavy upon the mental side of the game, and how that factors into some of these guys that are dealing with injury. So again, check me out next Wednesday night right here on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, powered by Believe. Everybody over in the comments, I appreciate you. Thanks for joining me this evening. As always, hit the like, subscribe, rate the show, review it, tell your friends. We'll be back with more here on this network on Sunday night as we bring you the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network show with me, John Fina, Joe Miller. And then obviously we've gotten into more of our regular season content with John, with Off Tackle with John Fina on Monday night. That show sponsored by Salem's Hot Dogs. Then On the Beat on Tuesday night, and then me again on Wednesday. So as always, folks, Love you. Appreciate you. Thanks for taking the time to check out the show. And I'll be back later this week with more about the Buffalo Bills and everything that's going on in Buffalo. So as always, folks, much love. Go Bills.
I'm still the same.